Blizzard can finally fix WoW's worst lore. Looks like Beliar is talking about WoW Chronicle 4. Maybe they'll just retcon all of Shadowlands. Who knows? But most likely Chronicle is going to get into those things. For the first time, we're going to see that stuff in written form. Shadowlands and all the lore that happened there before and after. Let's see what Beliar has to say about how Blizzard is going to fix WoW's lore.
Welcome back to the news, everyone. It's been quite a week. We've got a new patch, a few new dramas, a series of major buffs coming in for classes in the next reset, and to start us off with a very interesting tidbit, some data that still looks real strong. So this is compiled by longtime viewer Night Stalker. It's Raider.io data that, of course, comes from the WoW Armory API.
WoW numbers.
So it is real numbers, and you can see us hovering around 2 million keys ran per week in recent weeks. It is softening a little bit. Week 10 maybe is looking like 1.5 million keys. And yes, next week is a rather rough affix combo, so that could hit it a bit. But the TLDR is these are really good numbers. In some cases, you're looking at 500,000 runs per week stronger just in the recent few weeks than the Season 2 numbers. That's kind of insane. Now, it's not like WoW has just magically become a way better game over the span of, like, I don't know, 6 months. And that's just got me assuming that BlizzCon must have been strong enough that people have actually been willing to give the game a shot now. Fairly interesting.
Maybe. I also think this has been the most, I don't know what it is, the dungeon pool, the affix pool, I don't know, but I've actually enjoyed this season of Mythic Plus more than probably any season since BFA, maybe? I don't know. But this season of Mythic Plus has been a lot of fun. I myself have ran more keys this season than I have probably in the last 4 or 5 seasons.
And speaking of numbers, if you want to help ours not be in the red, today's sponsor, Squarespace.com/Cellular Gaming.
There it is.
After a 2023 of shipping so many new features, they're absolutely worth checking out. Their already amazing site editor has got some brand new features. Fluid Engine lets you just put things where you want. You know that feeling of doing web design where there's just clunk?
It's because it's easier than other seasons, maybe.
It's basically how it should work in my head. It's awesome. And then, on top of Blueprint, well, you can build your own template from scratch. And between these two features, making a website
as a tank especially, I feel like, I don't know,
so easy.
Tanking these places has been
so
better.
If you want an amazing link and bio site to go along with your full website, they do it all. It is so easy to just get yourself online there. And of course,
I've done a lot of 20s.
Ease of use and design that has led to their award-winning templates being just that. It shines through everything, allowing anyone, regardless of design experience, to make a modern, slick website with lovely fonts and colors that, of course, works and is responsive across mobile, tablet, desktop.
Great, yeah, use the Fluid Engine, guys.
And here's
make
what's
your
amazing.
websites.
You can make an account today for free. You can build your site with all these cool editor features today for free. When you want to send it live, you can use code Bellular Gaming and you'll get 10% off an annual plan. So, thanks to them for sponsoring.
Code.
Let's
go.
There
it is.
All right, let's kick off today's show with a rundown of the smaller stories, then we'll get into the big stuff. We start with hefty class changes. If you're at Paladin, it's happy time because you are seeing 10 to 28% damage buffs across key abilities. I mean, Wake of Ashes is 20%. Both of its complementary talents are 28%, so yeah, that's quite nice burst DPS. BOJ,
this is pretty
20%.
nice. I mean, considering we just talked about the Fearlath buffs today, too, that just went live. They're probably not in this video because Blizzard just posted that a couple minutes ago. But they're buffing Fearlath again. Plus these Retribution buffs. I mean, this could be a big change for Ret Pallies if you have the Legendary, too.
Final verdict,
you could be
10%.
pumping freaking almost double DPS.
Holy Paladins also see 30% Consecration and Shield of the Righteous damage buffs as well. Moving over to Druids, Ferals, you guys are getting 5 to 25% buffs across a whole load of abilities, which does make sense. They've been fairly soft in terms of performance and pick rates. Resto is also getting some mana cost reductions. Moving over to DKs, we're seeing 4% flat damage increases for Frost and Unholy. Survival Hunter also seeing 4%. Then for Priests, well, wow, Holy's got good news. Sanctify and Heal just get a 25% buff. Flash Heal gets 15. Chastise does 30% more damage, as does Smite, and Shadow Word Pain is 15% more damage. On the face of it, that looks amazing, but these very much have been needed. They've really been struggling, while, of course, Discipline has been way far ahead in terms of pick rates for Mythic Plus and for
the original Og
Over for Shadow, well, 10% buffs to some core spells like Devouring Plague Plague and Mind Blast, while Shadowy Apparitions do 20% more damage, and Psychic Link deals 30% to other targets, up from 25%.
Very nice.
Okay, we're nearly there. So, some more buffs. Resto Shamans, you guys are getting 5% healing, plus 20% damage to Lava Burst, Flame Shock,
It's been a
and
good
Lightning
expansion
Bolt.
for Shamans.
And for the Warriors, well,
It really
Arms,
has
you're
been.
getting 10% to Cleave, 30% to Dreadnought, 15% to your Mastery, and the Emir Drasil 4
Yeah, the
set
dot
damage
scales with
bonus
haste now,
is
too. That's right,
200%,
Siegfried.
up from 100%. And for Prot, you guys have been tuned upwards a little bit as well. Now, to zoom out on this whole situation, essentially this is just weaker specs being
Big buffs
nudged
across
up
the board.
in a lot of cases.
This is what I was happy with. Bone Shield 80%, was 70. That's nice for blood
is
decay.
not really going to be enough to like make them amazing picks. It's
Not a
just
huge
about
change,
making
but
them
still a nice buff.
less bad, or at least middle of the road, so that people won't feel basically stupid for picking them. Of course, though, these are the tuning changes. It will take a little bit of time for this to appear in the player data, because people will already be geared, stat optimized, and all of that for what's currently best, which, won't be any of these. Sticking with tuning, a very large tuning change from PTR to live. Follower Dungeons had a massive nerf to XP on PTR.
Well, the buff needed to happen to Feralath for sure. So it needed a massive buff. Needed it big time.
Now, that is only 5% per AI-controlled party member, so basically with a full AI party, you're getting 80% of normal XP. Look, I don't think anybody is going to be chain running dungeons to level. That's
You're
just
limited to
not
10
the
anyways.
fastest way to do it right now in Dragonflight. I think this is obviously just for people who want to ease themselves into the dungeons, or maybe just want to knock out those dungeon quests immediately without having to do a queue. And certainly it's useful for that. I mean, over in my Rat Paladin, I
actually don't think they were worried about people chain running these to level up. I think they were worried about bots. I think they were worried about bots finding it to be the most efficient way, and you just have bots running all night through these AI dungeons. That's what they were probably afraid of. And that's why they limited the dungeon pool and, diminished its XP.
Halls of Infusion for that tier
Or
quest,
limited
because
the
I'm just
number of
redoing a
dungeons
bunch
you
of
can
stuff on that character. And you know what? Being able to just have a bunch of AI party members go in there, blast the dungeon out, great, really good feature. Okay, PvPers, you've got news, but it's not really the good news that you wanted. I mean, it is good. Conquest is uncapped now. You'll also earn 30% more, as well as 40% more honor. But have you got the MMR changes that all 7 of you have been asking for? No, you haven't. And at this stage, why? It's just a complete mystery. Just about everybody with skin in the game here,
Did he say all 7 of you?
dedicated PvP players, they all appear to be baffled. I mean, I checked through what they're saying on Twitter, on YouTube videos like from Rookie, and people are just really baffled. I've got no idea what's going on here. For sure, we do know one thing. War Within will need to make a very big effort to get PvP back to a decent state. The problems they've been having with the likes of MMR inflation are just really awful. I mean, look, if you don't treat PvP well, you won't then have PvP players, which will make those numbers smaller. Then you're probably not going to feel the need to take as good care of it, and you just end up in a negative feedback cycle, which is the opposite of what we want. Okay, Season 4 tier set votes are in, and guess what? Turns out, the popular stuff won, and the strong stuff won. The community fears of basically some people sabotaging other specs and classes.
It would have taken a lot of votes to be able to sabotage another class. There was a fear that, like a big Death Knight community was going to get together and intentionally sabotage the rogue community by voting for their shittiest tier sets or something, or shittiest bonuses. That would have taken a very nice, big, coordinated effort that it never came together.
Those were not realized at all.
Yeah.
Basically, if it looked nice and performed well, chances are it won. Hardly a surprise. Then the revival.
I think Season 3 got most of the
weekly charges, so you're also able to get tier in no time. And to end, we've got an undocumented change where special gathering nodes now have their own snazzy minimap icon. Ooh. Okay, that's the quick bits of news done. Let's get into our proper story, starting with Chronicle. This was a big surprise bit of news, and it is that Warcraft Chronicle Vol.4 releases this July. Now, you might be wondering why this is big, so here's a TLDR. Chronicle Volume 1 released March 2016 ahead of the Legion expansion. At the time, Chris Mattson called it, quote, the first in a series of books that attempt to codify, tighten up, and clarify the history of Warcraft. So, very much sold as that, basically the most definitive version of all of this lore in one book, as good as we can do it. And funny enough, if you go on Blizzard's website today, it still says definitive tome. Now this gets complicated with a phrase you probably heard before, and that is Titan perspective. So here's the deal. Chronicles
true.
Volume 1 through 3 did have a few inconsistencies. The sort of things that just happen when it's a big project and a really big body of work and you've got plenty of people being involved in making it. The thing is, though, and where it actually turned into a real problem was Shadowlands. Because Chronicle would, in a way, prove to be problematic for Shadowlands. So, during the BlizzCon in which Shadowlands was revealed, Steve Denuser said in the Q&A that Chronicle is a Titan perspective. And what that essentially was cover, right? Cover for them to bend things if they really needed to.
Change stuff up. This was a Titan lie.
Was written.
Right, it gave him the ability to, basically say, it was wrong because the Titans were lying. And that's what really happened.
Well before any of these Shadowlands ideas were there.
Or it was one-sided or biased or whatever.
Chronicle as a Bible, they went with the Titan perspective line, and that basically gave them a bit more latitude. To many, this was quite a big retcon, and it was saying, hey, you bought this book, and it was sold as this sort of ultimate compendium thing to tighten up the lore, as Chris Metzen said back then, but now we've changed its canonicity to a degree, and that pissed people off. The big picture here is that canon can be really tricky when you're dealing with secondary worlds. Writing big lore books, then, is a double-edged sword, because in making things clear, you give yourself less latitude in the future. Look at Warhammer 40k and all of the discussions that go on there about canonicity. Anyway, now for me, saying Titan perspective was a really stupid way to put it, because clearly everybody was just thinking about Warcraft in terms of the big cosmology chart. You know, this side of the chart is fighting that side of the chart, and apparently that's what the game is now. Of course, the point was that, Azeroth, world ordered by the Titans, and really Chronicle just represents kind of what everyone in Azeroth knows, if you sort of combine all their knowledge together into the true history. So maybe just saying the definitive history of Warcraft as is known by those in Azeroth, maybe that would have been a safer way to have said that, because the Titan point of view line was always pretty silly. Now that question has got to come up when we're talking about Chronicle Volume 4, because is it also from a Titan perspective? That would feel kind of weird, right?
It'd feel like you second-guess everything you read then. You wouldn't believe any of it. You'd be like, I don't know, this is what Amenthal wants me to believe, or is this the truth? I hope they somehow change that.
Look, I expect this to be back to the original mission of Chronicle, a authoritative view on events that we know. But I think there is somewhat of a difference here. We know what the next 3 expansions are, right? This whole World Soul Saga thing. True. That means there's a lot of planning going on at Blizzard, and that means Chronicle 4 can be written with those future expansions in mind. Does that mean that all sailing will be smooth? No, but does it mean that this will have a better chance than previous Chronicles did? Yes. Now, in subject matter, this is doing Mist of Pandaria through to Shadowlands. And honestly, well, I'm excited for Shadowlands, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe it's just a morbid curiosity, but there's so many little problems with Shadowlands, and you could even say, where did all the Drust stuff go?
It was the janky lore.
More there? And was it always so threadbare? Sigils! What's up with a sigil? Can we find out? What was Zovaal truly motivated by? What happened to the deep past of the Shadowlands? All of these things where we just didn't really get satisfying, clear answers from Shadowlands itself. Right. And obviously just...
And what about all the theories that the Primus is actually the puppeteer? The freaking creator of domination magic. He's the one who's actually pulling all the strings and making everything happen and messing up Zovaal and all that shit. I wonder if we get any hints towards that.
Shadowlands was one big old narrative mess.
The Primus,
and of course, the expansion that came before it, BFA, was also a bit of a narrative mess. So, the idea then that they can clarify and tidy up these very rocky parts in the Warcraft canon, I think that's actually a really good opportunity. I mean, we can't take the Shadowlands back, but we can tidy it up and we can move on. And as much as events outside of these books did tarnish them a bit, look, I love them. They're diving into the lore. They're really good reads. They've got amazing art. Just
they're great.
Big, beautiful looking, lovely premium books. It's just a good experience. Plus, I mean, hey, maps,
I'd like
cosmology.
To get an audiobook of it.
Who knows? Maybe the original chart will get an update. I mean, the original was framed as light and shadow being the most important, in line with Warcraft Chronicle Volume 1's understanding of WoW's Big Bang being a sort of clash of shadow and light. But then we had Grimoire of the Shadowlands, which came out during Shadowlands. That was written, by Sean Copeland and Steve Denuser, but if you believe the book itself, it was actually written by a broker. So it frames things being along the lines of life and death. So I'm really confused about what cosmology chart we could get in this, because it's Chronicle, and we already had the chart, the Chronicle chart. Cosmology chart already in Chronicle, so I don't know what they're going to do. And also we'll get opportunity for maps and clarifications. I just think that'll be cool. And at least in the lore, I do remember one interview from Holly Longdale. She basically said that, look, as a player, she also felt that things had went a bit off lore-wise, story-wise in Shadowlands. So if that's kind of the opinion top-down of the team, and there's a new publication like this, I'm not particularly worried. Okay, 10.2.5 gameplay. Outland Cup and Azeroth Archives are our new things to do. Look, the dragon riding races, you see when they're pushed to the max, they're actually a pretty damn good, surprisingly sweaty experience. I would definitely recommend giving the Outland Cup a try while it's here. Now, Archives is an interesting beast. Beyond the event, by the way, there's also solo world quests that will give you 500 to 800 fragments, plus then, of course, you'll get 5,000 a week.
And this week, the world quests are giving you a bonus rep.
If you add up all the items, you are looking at
50% increase in reputation, and there's the quest in Valdrakken this week that'll give you a 2,500 rep to whichever faction you want after you've done 10 world quests. So it's a good week for world quests.
38,000 fragments. Now, I've been getting about 1,000, maybe like 1,300, 1,500 per dig. If you were to just divide the amount of fragments by like 1,250, you get 190 digs, which would be the equivalent to you spending an entire week at your computer doing every single dig every single hour. Don't do that. Now, those world quests, you get 2 sets of 2 per week, and of course, those are per character. So if you've got a few max level characters, it will not be as rough as it looks. And also, that price, 238,000 fragments, it is quite inflated by the very large number of weapons all costing 10,000, and chances are, you won't be able to use all of them in the character you care about anyway. And then remember, you can transfer fragments between characters at a 1-to-1 rate using an item on that vendor. Now, as for the event itself, now that I've done it, I would say that, well, it's grand, as we say around these parts. It's not the best thing ever, certainly not the worst. I get that it's probably balancing, but I don't know about you, but I barely get any jobs when I'm around that NPC and a dig is actually going on. So I end up spending a lot of them just clicking dirt piles, which is kind of boring. Yeah. As for the new minigames, I don't really like the elemental one at all, but the scrying one I think is pretty decent. And look, if you were to take the winners from here, toss in a V2 of rock climbing and a V2 of the cataloging sort of Pokemon Snap levels, and I do think you can really see a next-gen archaeology take shape. Anyhow, there's that. Next, though, let's talk about the story. This sure was a strange patch narratively. I mean, it was all story, but all the story was quite short. To start with the retaking of Gilneas, I mean, I think it itself was like a 5 out of...
In my opinion, I feel like Gilneas got a little bit of the final season of Game of Thrones treatment, where we kind of had this build-up the whole time. We're like, oh, this is going to be a big event. This retaking Gilneas is going to be huge, and it was kind of over in a couple episodes. We thought it was going to be this whole season, and it wasn't. Some people said, oh, you guys got to... I saw a comment on one of my videos talking about how this is really a prologue. It's meant to kind of reveal some different new lore about the light with the Scarlet Crusade and everything that was going on. That's fine, but I still feel like there should have been more about the Gilneas. More cutscenes, more interesting stuff. They could have dragged it out a little bit more, maybe.
10 or 6 out of 10.
Just kind of felt like, oh, we're passing the torch.
But with a 9 out of 10 cinematic at the end, that was really brilliant. For me, the problem was the actual game bit was just far too short. It was like 15 minutes. You know, kill 12 dudes, kill 12 dudes. Kill 12 dudes, done. I thought going through the tunnel was neat, but yeah, it needed more. I didn't feel like retaking Gilneas was a struggle. It just felt like a victory lap.
It felt like, oh, we just finally decided to do it. It did. We took it back. Like, oh, good. Yeah, we finally decided to retake Gilneas. We could have done it last week, but when we didn't, we decided to do it this week. And I thought we'd get some kind of big lore reveal, like I said, a Dreadlord appearing out of nowhere. I know that some people, say that's a overused trope now, but I like that stuff. Sardan Athreus maybe showing up. That would have been cool, or just hearing his voice, but we didn't get any of that.
Where's the proper campaign, pushing the Scarlets out of the towns, around the
Scarlet Crusade also feels like they're just being used to be slaughtered.
Properly, like a campaign.
Between the undead campaign and now this one, it just feels like, oh, we're just killing Scarlets everywhere. That's all they're good for.
In the zone of Gilneas, not just a scuffle in the city.
Yeah,
and it does highlight a weakness in the writing. Look, I'm not expecting the WoW writers to suddenly be massively into military history or something, but WoW's always been really bad at making a battle feel like a battle. There were a few times in Cataclysm where they did a good job of that, but here it's very much just kill a bunch of dudes.
You know where I feel like they did a very good job making a battle feel like a battle? Do you guys remember the opening quest line for WoD? You guys, I know WoD gets a bad rap. Like, Warlords of Draenor gets a really bad rap. but it's because of how it finished, not how it started. That shit started on fire. That thing was lit when it first hit. The player base was huge, and the opening quest lines were amazing. Do you guys remember when the Iron Horde was chasing us, and we had just gotten to Draenor, and they were chasing us, and you're running down that path, and you see tanks everywhere. That felt like a battle that we were losing, but it felt like a big open battle. That opening quest line was one of the coolest starting quest lines to expansion that I can remember.
It's open the door, you're done.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot
and
too.
that felt
Questing in
kinda
WoD
lame.
was
And
great.
because the runtime is so small, that just
finished
means there's a
badly.
boatload of missed opportunities. Also, not really much in the way of Worgen being involved, like actual unique things to being a Worgen. Like, where's us going around with Tess sneaking? I mean, she is a renowned rogue, right? I mean, look at the Uncrowned. Remember them from Legion? She's this renowned rogue. Can we not, like, go on a scouting mission with her? And, I mean, even think about when you were scouting the Scarlets in the Death Knight starting zone. Like, where was that? So we could
That
maybe
was cool, I
overhear
remember
some conversations between these Scarlet characters.
Yeah.
Where's us even feeling like the Forsaken are actually needed? I mean, Kalia's whole light-risen nature, that should be very relevant to the Scarlets. I mean, I could go on and on, honestly. For me, it was fine. If you love Worgen, then I think, yeah, you'll rightly be disappointed here. And also, yeah, that armor set, even after the geosets were fixed, yeah, I don't know, it's just not a win.
Also, Gilneas itself, after you retake it, is kind of like meh, And I understand maybe they'll eventually add more to the city and update the city a little bit more. It's not going to get rebuilt overnight, but I feel like it could have had more NPCs. Like this is an entire generation of people who've been lost, wandering Azeroth, and now they get their city back. I wanted to see like hundreds of NPCs, like on the level of Suramar. Where it's just like people everywhere, just NPCs all over the place. I feel like they're kind of scattered, like couple here, couple there. Oh yeah, there's an NPC. Like there's not much going on in the city right now.
I think for me, the question here is why, and there's a clear answer: time. That's the thing.
What's
They
that,
have a
Sam?
very
What's
large
hundreds of
team. We
friends?
all
Jesus.
know that. You think they have 600 developers. How could they possibly not make the big reclamation of Gilneas amazing?
Yeah, it'll probably
But
get
think
some
again.
more attention.
They're
to
building
Warden,
10.2.6, 10.2.7, Season 4, War Within patch content, and Midnight. And Midnight, by the way, isn't in pre-production, it's in production. As in, they have, broadly speaking, got 2 expansion teams and 1 live team per interviews with their leadership. So overall, I'm left wishing they didn't ship this. I think the scope doesn't match what the player fantasy should be. So even though there are so many lovely touches from the developers who actually, were tasked to make this,
The cutscenes were
ultimately
kinda cool.
this project was doomed to be underwhelming at the planning stage because they evidently
Just wanted
did
more.
not have enough resources to make this what it should have been. But what didn't underwhelm was the cinematics. I mean, hey, WoW's first kiss, Gan abdicating so he can focus on alliance-sized matters over in Stormwind, terrific vocal performances across the board, especially with Tess and Gan, animation quality that is absolutely a cut above what we've been used to. I mean, just
Yeah,
to
the
see how
cutscenes were
far
good.
we've came, here's where this whole in-game cutscene cinematic thing started in Legion. Yeah, that's what those looked like. I mean, straight up, it was just characters doing regular slash emotes with a voiceover. It was so janky. Now,
was.
I mean, when they use those cinematic quality models and they bring in their full animations, man, this stuff looks great.
They do
Now,
look
yeah,
good.
the scenes that require really big set pieces or, VFX plugins, realistically, those are going to be pre-rendered things. But, I mean,
first
man,
WoW
for just
kiss.
doing conversations and having your character be involved in the action in-game, this is absolutely brilliant. The more they hone this workflow, well, the more this will be the standard for WoW storytelling, and that bodes really well for the future. Okay, as for the future, the Scarlets will be back. Your UI even says so, because yes, in the quest to kill Fairbell,
Yeah.
in the little pop-up window that shows her model, underneath it says, "This won't be the last time you face the Scarlets," or something.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Are we even scared of them anymore? Are we even scared of them? They're just NPCs that we kill at this point. We slaughter them every time. They've never even been hard to kill. It's I want to see a Scarlet Crusade that's actually a worthy enemy. I don't know, a raid version of it. I don't know, but it's something about it. I feel like we've killed them so many times, and they just keep using them now. Like the Heritage Armor quest lines for the undead, this retaking of Gilneas, they're just soloable ads. They're not a big deal. They need to be more powerful.
to that effect. So yeah, they'll probably be back in Midnight, where I think they will sail from Onslaught Harbor over to Quel'Thalas, or maybe they'll somehow make it into the Last Titan. Who knows?
Maybe I'm just too powerful. Maybe that's what it is.
Turned into a light spawn, so that's a bit suspicious. Otherwise, then we had some stay a while and listens with characters. Rathian had a chat with Sibelian, where we learned that he's now accepting his unique place growing up amongst mortals, but also, of course, being an important dragon. And now he intends to work with his agents to track down Iridikron. Over with Caligos and Khadgar, well, Kalik decides it's time to actually go full blue aspect, step down from the Council of Six, and it ends with him and Khadgar deciding to split up their time searching for clues between Karazhan, the Dalaran libraries, and the Azure archives, where they want to learn all they can about the Dark Heart that Iridikron passed over to Xal'atath. Though I don't think our characters know that it's Xal'atath, they just know that the Harbinger has some sort of spooky object full of Galakrond juice. Elsewhere then, Matthias Shaw's spies have seen Anduin Wrynn at Ratchet, but him and Gan have decided to hold off on telling Turalyon. I think they just want Anduin to do his thing, and of course we know that Anduin is currently chasing down those visions that also Thrall...
I still think that hold off on telling Turalyon thing says a lot about what they think about him. I think they think he's not the easiest to deal with.
Janus saw, which we
could
found
become
out
an
at
issue.
The big celebration at the foot of Emir Drasil. As for the Night Elf stuff, okay, so here's the deal, actually. I properly, replayed the other Night Elf campaigns on my alt, and I'll tell you what, right? Put together, the plot feels a little bit underwritten in places, yeah. The player presentation of this stuff hasn't been great. Like how we found out the name of Emir Drasil because Alexstrasza said it in a teaser cinematic at the end of 10.1. That was kind of lame. But the whole emotional through line has actually been really strong. And what's there in the 10.25 cinematic is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, people will joke about, hey, finally, it's WoW's first in-game kiss. But the fact that they actually did that, did all
I actually said that when it happened, and I had no idea that it really was.
And it didn't look really janky. That's a really good achievement for their cinematic team. I think the performances of those characters were great. It really just does highlight that they have the tools. They can actually get great vocal performances. Again, I'm sure whoever voices Alexstrasza can do brilliant work elsewhere, but boy, whatever that direction is that leads to the very slowly talking, telepathic, bizarre dragons, it is really bad. Ugh. Anyway, they can do amazing cinematics. Now all we need is a focused story. So I think I'm left, now that we're truly at the end of this expansion, at least, the A-plot of Dragonflight-wise, rather than juggle between each flight, tier, night elves, Sarkarath side quest, time stuff, Black Dragon succession stuff, and this and that, and a bit of everything, I really wish that in this expansion, they just bit off less, because they really are showing they can do some individual things quite fantastically. And I think if we just try to do less but better, the improvements that team has actually made, well, I think those would properly shine through.
I mean, that kind of less but better is kind of what I'm expecting out of the trilogy coming out, right? Because we're going to have that World Soul Saga. They're going to have more time to tell the story. It's going to be lengthy. They're not going to have to, start and end a story every expansion. The story is going to continue through these next three. So I think that we're going to get exactly what Beliar is saying here.
For where we're left, well, Dragonflight has actually put characters in place, and it's wrapped up plot lines. I mean, the Ysera Arkenwheel stuff, done. Night Elves, done. Dragons, done. All while giving other things some time to breathe. I think if Dragonflight's weaknesses are shored up, but its strengths continue, we're in for a great time.
Less is more sometimes,
Let's end with the future. What next then? Well, 10.2.7 Dark Heart, per the roadmap, has got Harbinger quests, and as I just talked about, we've got Khadgar and Caligos off to research this Dark Heart artifact, while Rathian hunts down
Dark
Iridikron.
Heart.
So, personally, I fully expect Xal'atath to show up, and for this to be a proper prologue to the next expansion. One that gives Blizzard a fairly unique opportunity, because the end of the Dark Heart story can lead directly into the pre-patch of War Within. And they've never really been able to do that before. So I think that's pretty cool. Then there's Time Running Pandemonium. It's a bit weird. We know it's MOP related, but little else. However, there are data mining fragments. So there's some data mining suggesting that Siege of Orgrimmar had been looked at a while ago, so...
There's also been some remodeling of Pandaria, like up-resing and different things. So I don't know what... I used to think we were going to go get the heart of Yasharaj, but I don't think so anymore.
Likely it will be a time-walking raid.
Because the Dark Heart is that's not what it is.
But Siege of Orgrimmar time-walking would be fantastic, and I highly recommend you check out the time-walking raids. Me and my guild have been doing them recently. They're super fun. Blizzard, try giving us a heroic mode of them.
Pyrocopia.
Anyway, there's also some very interesting strings that have been found. They're called this: 10.25 Pandaria Time Walking Season,
good timing,
and
King
then, you know, as an example, Alliance 5.1 storyline. And you can see they pretty much cover the whole main endgame story of Mists of Pandaria. So, to me, it's kind of looking like they'll scale up that, like, narrative content somehow. It's weird. Then there was this time-running gear that was data mined, which seemed to have some fairly interesting effects. And then, of course, the whole Vampire Survivor string that was data mined.
Yeah, we never saw that.
But that was in relation to 10.2.6. So yeah.
I thought we were going to get that for the retaking of Gilneas stuff. You know, like this crazy armies rushing us. Yeah, that's what Vampire Survivor is, like just hacking and slashing. We didn't get it. No. So
they're cooking up something anyway. Though before that, we'll get 10.2.6. Who the hell knows what that is, but I think we'll almost certainly find out this week. So that's it for me. If you want to support the show, of course, check out today's sponsor. And if you want to dive into the main lore as it sort of pertains to what's next, you can check out this video about Iridikron, Salatat, Viranoth, and big picture, just what the hell Iridikron has been up to, what his true plan is. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, I'll see you over there. Goodbye.
Nice little summary of everything that's gone on in 10.2.5, and WoW Chronicle, getting into Shadowlands, that's going to be interesting. Going forward, we're getting ready for the War Within, so all the patches are going to start to lead into that. It's good stuff. Good season so far, Mythic Plus and everything else. I agree with a lot of the stuff he said in this video.